Welcome back to part 7 of our Why Goals Fail seminar. Today is actually the third part of the specific strategies. And today we're going to be talking about belief or believing. Step 1 we talked about vision. Step 2 we talked about strategy. Looking at having the appropriate vision, then implementing the right strategy for your vision. And today we're going to talk more about belief. And in the beginning, we talked about you want to be very visionary. You want to be a strategist. Being too much of one or the other is not helpful, and you want to kind of you want to be able to have a very clear vision on what you're doing, have a strategy in place for that vision, but it's believing. And what we talk a lot about in the business, and you've heard me say it over and over again, is that right believing always leads to right living. And it goes back to the beliefs versus habits. If you believe right, you will always, always live right. So the key what we believe is to change how you think, change how you believe. Because in this, when we're talking about this particular steps in goal setting, you have to believe that you can. If you don't believe that you can, how well do you think it's actually going to work? You have to believe that you can. So therefore, if you're believing right, your goals are going to be much more easier to achieve. If you believe in the vision, if you're confident about the vision that you have, if you're confident in the strategy that you have, and you believe that the strategy will reach your vision, your chances of succeeding are much, much, much higher. And those that tend to have a stronger belief system, those that believe in the process, believe in what they're doing, they tend to be a little bit more self-confident, tend to have their own kind of sense of self-control and hope. It can be stemmed towards that. I mean, if you look at typically people that aren't very confident, don't have a whole lot of hope, it usually is because they don't believe. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in the process. They don't really believe in much of anything. And so that's kind of where we want to tackle it today. And what we look at is that if you believe, you will. If you believe that you will succeed. But if you don't believe that you're not going to, then you're not going to either. It's what you think. It's what you think about yourself. It's what you think of the process. It's what you think about others that is going to be the most powerful predictor of any change that you have or any success that you see. Now I don't really want to necessarily focus on the negativity and say, oh, this is what unbelievers do. And we're not even talking spiritually right now. If you want spiritual my thoughts on that, you can look at our fitness ministry. But what we're talking about today is just belief in general, belief in self, belief in the process, and where that lies. And so what we want to look at is we want to look at the traits of strong believers, those that believe in something strongly, and those that are adamant about their beliefs. What are the traits of someone that has a very strong belief system? And typically, step 1 is what it will be is they will work harder, they will achieve more, and they will perform better. And one of the other things that I will say a lot, and I'll say a lot about things, is that you don't work hard out of obligation. You work hard because you want to work hard. And if you're working hard just simply to get something out of it, or you're working hard because someone's telling you to work hard, that will fizzle out. You will not perform better. You will not achieve more. But when you are believing appropriately, when you're doing it out of love, when you're doing it out of passion, purpose, and meaning, you will naturally work harder. You will naturally achieve more, and you will naturally perform better, not out of obligation, but because of want. Typically, those that have strong beliefs will also have a lot more joy in their life. Because it's very secure. Having that belief system there is very, very secure. And typically those that have that joy in their life will be able to defeat depression, anxiety, and burnout a lot easier. It's really easy to get excited about going to a gym and getting in shape and doing all that. But it's really hard longevity-wise to hold on to it. It's really hard not to get to a plateau and then want to burst through it. But those that believe in themselves, believe in the process, and just belief in general, typically will be able to fight through a lot of that, have more joy in their life. Another trait of a strong believer is those that can persist vigorously. Nothing is sunshines and rainbows. Nothing is, lollipops and ice cream all the time. Life is really, really tough, and you have to persist through things. And things aren't always smooth. You go through ups and downs all the time, but if you believe in the process and believe in yourself, typically those people generally will be able to persist and get through stuff more vigorously. They'll be able to do it much, much more easily and not be torn down easily someone that may not really have that same belief. There also is, we want to look at another trait is failure to changeable cases, not unchangeable. And basically what that means is when you look at failure, if you fail at something, if things don't go according to plan and you don't succeed the way you want, typically those that have strong beliefs will look at changeable circumstances and say, well, it didn't work because the strategy was flawed, or the vision was flawed, or maybe I didn't know what I want, maybe my vision wasn't clear, or maybe the strategy wasn't right. And those are changeable things. You can change your vision. You can change your strategy. And so those that believe appropriately, I think, are going to look at that and say, I just need to change. We need to change these steps. Where the unchangeable ones are things that have to do with self. I'm no good. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's me. It's me. It's me. That are things that people with weaker beliefs typically will let that control them, because the reality is that's not right. That's a lie. Those that believe that they're not worth something, that is not true. So it's much easier to look at when you look at changeable things. It's not the person that's wrong, it's just the vision or the strategy. And that's very easily changeable, and it doesn't reduce self. If anything tears you down, it's the wrong thought process. If you're tearing yourself down in any way, it's the wrong thought process. But anything that builds you up, anything that looks for positivity in the future, that is something that I think most people can handle. Also, another trait of a strong believer is some people that they'll react better to difficult circumstances. It kind of goes back to what we talked about before. Stuff happens. Things happen. And those that find the silver lining and can pick themselves right back up and kind of, be able to, look at a difficult circumstance and then make the best of it, or be able to, find a way to retract their steps and go in another direction, that's also a very strong trait. And also another really, really, really important trait of strong believers are those that use effective coping habits. So, an ineffective coping habit would be turning to food, turning to alcohol, turning to drugs, self-defeat, self-negative talk. Those are all coping things to deal with things that are maybe difficult. Where, dealing with things in a more positive, effective way are, things in support groups, in many different ways, where people that can turn to other places and be able to cope with things much more efficiently. And it all comes down to us believing that we are made to succeed, believing that nothing negative should be in our life, and that each and every one of us has gifts, each and every one of us has talents, each and every one of us are designed to succeed. So therefore, when we don't, it goes back to what we were saying. It's changeable. It can be done. There's nothing towards us negatively. It's just, we just need to change a few of the things that we're doing. And another thing that's really important about believing right is visualizing. And if, there's an old saying about, the basketball players who, I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but I'll keep it short. Those that think about shooting free throws and those that actually practice shooting free throws. And what you'll find is that those that visualize and positively visualize, see themselves almost in the moment doing it, are going to have a higher percentage of succeeding than those that don't. We want to look at, once we know what our vision is, then we want to visualize that. We want to constantly look at where are we going, what are we wanting to do, and then start not only thinking about that as if we've already done it and that we're achieving it, but also think about and visualize the strategy that goes into it. Because if you think about it and do it and play it over in your mind, when you get to that point, you've already done it. It's just a matter of just doing it at that point. And then the final thing that we want to talk about, and it has to do with beliefs, because part of believing right is having positivity and reducing the negativity in your life. So venting and letting out negativity is very important. And this is where being around people that you're comfortable with, being around a good support group is very, very important, because if you just hold it in, I don't know anyone that can hold in negativity and it not let them negatively affect how they believe or how they look at themselves. So having a loved one, friend, family, fitness professional, support group, people that you're around that you can let out negativity towards is very important, because feelings are just feelings. You let out what you're negative about, and those that are positive around you are going to be able to accept that and then look at you and say, you know what, that's okay that you feel that way, but here's the truth. So those are just some of the things about believing. I guarantee, going back to our original statement, believing right or right believing always leads to right living. And it will make your vision and strategy more effective, and your longevity of being in shape will happen much, much better. I thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow about our second to last topic on goal setting.
When you feel that something's wrong, I'll shelter you and keep you warm. I'll never let you walk alone. I love